Hi there, it's John from itsmorethanjustgaming.com. Welcome to you. In this video I'm going to be having a look inside the box of something that arrived the other day for me from Kickstarter once again. Lords of Hellas by the team at Awaken Realms. Now I have to say, of all the Kickstarters I've backed in the last year, and there have been many, all of which were awesome, this one is probably the one I've been most excited for because it sort of like came out of left field for me when it popped up on Kickstarter and appeared on my Facebook newsfeed. It is a game of alternate history to do with Greek mythology, in the terms that there are Greek heroes and warlords warring over the territory, and then suddenly there are powerful alien beings with advanced technology and stuff landing in the area, and they're being worshipped as gods and feared as monsters. And this game is all about that. This video is going to be a peek inside the box at the awesome that's in there. And I've had a look inside the box. It is awesome. This video will be accompanied by an article on my website. It's morethanjustgaming.com. The link to the specific article will be in the description, and there will be photographs of various cards, miniatures and whatnot, so you can get a better, longer look at anything that you see on this video that you like. So, let's have a look inside the box. So, let's have a closer look at the front of the box, and the box art, as you can see, is pretty awesome, and I think that's one of the special finishes for the box art, and actually I think some of the components inside the board and the cards. It's a very nice finish. This is Zeus, which is one of the miniatures in the game, although miniature's not the right word for it, and you'll see why in a minute. So, lifting off, we have not an especially long instruction manual. It's 15 pages, 16 pages, which is a lot shorter than I was expecting. Nice artwork on the front. Got a soldier being stabbed by a minotaur. I'm guessing that's Perseus or something like that. So that's not a soldier, rather that's a hero. Excuse me. There's a lot of detail in the manual. I have to say I didn't find it a particularly user-friendly manual. A lot of things didn't make sense until the second read through. There is a link to a how to play video on the Awaken Realms website, the Lords of Hellas website, but for my money you shouldn't need to go looking on the internet to learn how to play something. I mean, yes, obviously it helps, but the rules manual should actually do the job, and this one could have been laid out a little bit more logically. These cards are from the Persian invasion, which is a scenario, or sort of like a campaign for solo mode. I've not taken it out of the little band, so let's do that just now, in fact. Told a lie. That little pack was not all for the Persian invasion. It was for all the cards of this size. So we have the Persian invasion tray. I've not looked at the rules for solo mode yet, so I'm not quite sure what all this does, but you've got the mobilization track, Xerxes command track, and the invasion command track. You've got some help cards here. I think there should be 4 of these in total. Possibly there will be a 5th one when the rest of the Kickstarter stuff shows up, because it was only the core mode, the core game. On one side you've got the 3 statues that come with the game and how you assemble them, because you have to build monuments to the gods. There's 5 levels for each one by the looks of it, and you get bonuses for each completing each level, which is cool. And on the back it tells you it's got useful symbols and helpful things to do with the hunt and the different monsters, the sort of artifacts and equipment you're going to need to beat them. I believe that's what this is, because although actually that might make more sense in just a second, because we're coming to the monsters, the monster cards. So we have the Sphinx, and it's going to need, these are the sort of like the damage things that you can, this has got 5 wounds, and This one needs to be done by combat cards with the arrow symbol, with the torch or the wand or the mace symbol, whatever that is, the spear symbol. And this has got a symbol for a priest on it, which means you get bonuses, win or lose, based on the fact it's got a priest on it. Then we have Medusa. And again, it's got like a torch or a wand. I think that's a torch. That's like arrows, spear, torch. Something I didn't actually mention we've got the special attacks, region attacks. So when the Medusa attacks a hero, they use their special attack. When they attack a region, they kill hoplites. And you get a reward for defeating each monster, like the Blood of Medusa in this case. Cerberus. There was one of these on Medusa. On the first one, we did see this symbol represents you get a bonus if you've got a priest, and you are able to defeat. Actually, you get that bonus if you have priests and win or lose, I think it is. And this is for artifacts. You get bonuses win or lose if you've got artifacts. That's cool for Cerberus. The Hydra. The Hydra, all of these have a miniature in the box, and on the website I will do a photograph of each of the monster trays. Oh, look, you get a nice pretty picture on the back. But all of the details on the front, I'll do a picture of the monster tray and their appropriate miniature. And last but not least, the Minotaur. These are upside down, so let's flip them round for just now. We have the character tray for Achilles. Achilles is one of the heroes. Has a special ability, add Achilles' speed or strength, whichever is lowest, to your army strength in the region he is in. So that's quite interesting. And he gets a starting bonus. He starts with 2 speed rather than 1. These are your relative strengths and speeds. Leadership, strength, and speed. Leadership, I think that's how many hoplites you can move in a hoplite move. Strength is, I think that dictates how many combat cards you can hold or something like that. I'll need to look up. And speed is how many regions that your hero can move. This space represents priests in your pool. You don't start with any, you need to build temples to get priests, and these are the special actions on your army board. I'm not quite sure why these are actually, when these pop out there are actually 2 boards, and it doesn't make sense that that they're not attached, but maybe with expansions later that will make more sense that they're not one single board. These tokens here are basically for used action tokens, for like used special actions. When you use a special action, you cover it over with a used token. I've not found in the rules if you have to use all 6 of your tokens, because each player gets 6 tokens. I'm not sure if you have to use all of them before you can clear your board. That was not clear, I have to say. Like I say, it's needing multiple read-throughs. Next character is Helen of Troy. There's her special ability and starting bonus. And on this, we also have temples that can be built. I do actually have the terrain expansion, so there are actually physical temples. This is the Oracle of Delphi, which is a special temple that can only be built on the shrine symbol in Delphi. The rest of them can be built anywhere else that there's a shrine symbol. Heracles is the next hero. And these are quest markers, because in the event deck there are quest cards, and you basically pop these out to on a region that it tells you to signify that there's a quest going on, and heroes can go to that region, and so long as they qualify for the quest, which might mean, to qualify you might have to be a certain speed, you might have to have a certain amount of blessings or artifacts, and the hero leaves the board and slowly progresses along the quest chain. So capture the Cretan bull, kill the Stymphalian birds, the Amazon Queen. I don't know, I guess you're looking to find her. Saving Prometheus, Caledonian Hunt, Clean Augean Stables, Cattle of Geryon, Aid to Atlas, and Expedition for the Golden Fleece. So there's some of the labours of Hercules there, there's Jason and the Argonauts there, and some Greek stories that I'm less familiar with. Oh, this one's upside down. Perseus. Oh, what are these? Let me just double check. These are glory tokens. When you kill a monster in a land or complete a quest, you get the glory token that matches that land's colour, and you can use it to usurp territory. These are attribute tokens that you put them on these sections on the board, and you start at one in each, and you can level up as your character progresses. Yeah, oh, whoops, popped them out by accident. Never mind. As you do prayers to the various gods, you can increase your character's attributes. We have a campaign book, which is a little bit thicker. Or actually, maybe it's not. It does actually have a helpful tutorial on the back for dealing with bent miniatures and broken ones, as well as some shameless self-promotion for the Kickstarter Nemesis, which is just about to finish. I'm not gonna dwell. Oh, it's complicated. Probably be fine. But that's the campaign book. I'm gonna freeze the video for a couple of seconds whilst I sort out the board. The board is beautiful. It's also quite large, and rather than being sort of like landscape, it's actually portrait length, which is actually making it a little bit awkward to film. I'm going to actually do a little bit of talking, and then I'm going to pause the video and then move the camera around to another angle so that you can see the rest of it. But you've got lots and lots of regions where you can move troops around like any territory control game like Risk. You have shield symbols. Let's see, can you probably barely see that? One there, one there, one there, and there's one down here as well. This one here is where you build the monument to Athena. Here is where you build the monument to Hermes. This is where you build the monument to Zeus. This one down here is actually neutral, because with the Kickstarter there were other monuments available like Apollo and Hades and Poseidon spring immediately to mind. Each region has a population attitude or neutral strength, almost how many hoplites you need to actually move into the area to take control of it. So Locris here requires 2 hoplites to move into it. You have towns where you can actually fortify your hoplites. There should be shrine markers in various places. Let's see, can I find a shrine marker? Yeah, Elis here has a shrine marker, so you can build a temple there. Messenia has a shrine marker, Corinthia has a shrine marker, Attica has a shrine marker, and so on. And that's where you would build the temples. There are also useful spaces around the board for combat cards and combat discards. There's a temple track down at the bottom which is just out of shot. There's population attitude, which truthfully I don't remember reading that in the rules, so that's possibly to do with the one-player thing. You have quest slots for quest cards at the top, a monster attack deck, an events deck, and a blessings deck. Okay, I'm going to move the camera around now. Okay, so we're now looking at it side on, just so you can get a little bit more of an idea. At the top I said there are spaces for quest cards. You basically put your quest... when you're setting up the game, you draw some event cards and you put quest cards out, and you put the corresponding quest marker on the board, and basically when your hero gets to the quest marker and qualifies for it, the hero comes off the board and would go onto the appropriate part of the quest track. So if they qualify for the first stage, they would go to stage 1, and then on a future hero move, they could, if they've got enough of the artifacts or whatever it is they need, they can actually progress, and they can keep on going until they complete the quest. And there'll be an awesome reward, so artifacts or strength boosts or something, or hoplites or whatever. I should also say that the board is double-sided. And we were looking at the war-torn, semi-destroyed part board. And actually, yeah, it's entirely possible that I was looking at the wrong board for the main game, because there's slight differences on this, which I didn't note before I started recording. But yeah. This one looks slightly less. This version of Hellas looks slightly less damaged and destroyed and war-torn, because this part of the region was all fire and brimstone a moment ago. Okay, so that's the board. Let's look at the miniatures and stuff that's in the box. I think it's fair to say that the main reason my attention was drawn to this game was the monuments of Zeus, Athena, and Hermes that are included with the base game. To give you an idea of scale, I've got the box lid behind them. They're about maybe between a third and half the height of the box lid. I will now put the hero characters in front of them to give you, and these are standard miniature size, so if you've got Descent or Imperial Assault, that's how big these miniatures are. Or also you can just compare it to the size of my hand. See, there's a fist. They're huge. I will zoom in on the hero miniatures in just a second, but I wanted to actually show off the monuments. Each of them are made from 5 component parts. You assemble them during the game, and one of the victory conditions is actually building and completing one of the monuments and holding on to the region for 3 turns, and that's one of the ways you win the game. Unless in the solo mode, I think all the monuments start built, which would be quite cool, to be honest. I think these models are amazing. I've put Athena in the center instead of Zeus because she was always my favorite, as in favorite of the Greek gods, because wisdom and warfare, always preferred that to like Zeus, given that he was actually quite an awful person. In fact, from my understanding, pretty much all the Greek gods were awful, and Athena wasn't much better, to be honest. But I at least like the fact that she was a goddess of wisdom and warfare rather than war, which was Ares. So let's actually have a look at the actual character miniatures. So the first hero we have is Achilles, from the Siege of Troy legend, and unkillable except for his Achilles heel. I've popped him beside Zeus and Athena to again emphasize the scale, and also to point at the little buckets that are at each of the gods' feet, or at each of the monuments' feet. That's where you can send. One of the actions you can do is to send one of your priests to pray, and each monument has 2 buckets basically, so they can have 2 priests praying there to gain the benefits, so perhaps increasing your hero's speed or something like that. Next up, Helen of Troy, or just Helen in this game, but Helen of Troy basically. She is one of the faction leaders. I paid for the extra, is it called Sundrop coating, to give them a little bit of shading before they even were dispatched to me, so they look a little bit cooler than just grey. I have to say that it came out quite nicely. I quite like it. But yeah, that's Helen of Troy. We have Perseus. Actually, you can't see him there if I do that. Perseus. So a curvy blade and a shield. He's apparently quite good for monster hunting. We'll get to monsters in just a second. And then we have Heracles. So those are the 4 faction leaders that the starter game comes with. They each come with their own set of hoplites and priests, which are cosmetically different, but functionally the same. They look like their faction does, but they have this exact same effect as any other hoplite or any other priest in the game. Almost as appealing as the god monuments for this game were the miniatures for the monsters, all of which came pre-assembled, which I was very happy about. And I've put Perseus here to give a scale. The first monster is Medusa, the Gorgon. About twice as high as Perseus and the other heroes, and probably about 2/3 as high as any of the monuments. So monstrous, which is quite cool. We have the Cyclops, which is actually making me think of the Cyclops in Ulysses 31, which, if you're as old as I am, you might remember was a cartoon series in the 1980s, which was very, very loosely based on the Odyssey and Greek legends and mythology, with Ulysses being defying the gods by destroying the Cyclops, which was a creation of Poseidon in that cartoon, if I recall. Pretty sure it was a creation of Poseidon, and he was banished to the galaxy of Olympus by Zeus for his impetuousness, and all of his crew were put to sleep. It was a really good TV series. Fantastic. Hydra. Or the Hydra, I should say. Hail Hydra. Cut off one head and 2 more will grow in its place. Unless, of course, you're Hercules or Heracles, you cut off its head and Iolaus burns the neck away so that the head can't regrow. Also read a Order of the Stick webcomic where what they did was they kept on cutting off heads until the Hydra's heart gave out, because it can only pump so much blood. Doesn't matter how supernatural magic makes the heads, they still all need blood, and it eventually passed out, and I think it was kobolds then set up their own Hydra stake business, which was funny. Order of the Stick's funny. The Minotaur. Isn't that cool? He's huge. You can see why you need heroes to fight these things. They're awesome. Cerberus, which translated actually means spot, or can be translated to mean spot, if I recall. I can't cite my sources there, but I've heard that from multiple locations, and I tend to believe it's true. But yeah, Cerberus. Big mean old dog guards the entrance to the realm of Hades. Hades is an expansion that should be arriving in a few months' time. Okay, this one is nowhere near as big, and doesn't look like I was expecting, to be honest. This is the Sphinx. Riddle me this. Still looks pretty mean in a fight. And the final monster is a beast and a half. Actually, technically, it's an amalgam of about 4 beasts. It's the Chimera. You've got the lion head, a ram's head, and it looks like the snake head that normally belongs to the tail is actually at the front of it as well, which is pretty interesting, because if I recall, the Chimera's tail was a snake, and it was Perseus who actually fought the Chimera. It's been a long time since I read Greek stories, and I can't quite remember, but I'm pretty sure it was Perseus on the back of Pegasus. So that's awesome. Let's have a look at the other miniatures. The other miniatures are a little bit less exciting than this, but they're still good. Each faction, and I'm not going to go through every individual faction's miniatures here, have 14 hoplites, or hoplite miniatures, which represent a hoplite army or a hoplite battalion if you want, and they have 4 priests as well. You don't start with any priests. You start, I think, with a couple of hoplites along with your hero. You have to actually build temples to get your priests. The hoplites and the priests look different for each faction. But like I said earlier in the video, they are the changes are only cosmetic. Everything else is functionally identical. I will put photographs of the various units with their heroes on my website. I'm not going to go through all of them here just now because the video is actually already going a little bit longer than I perhaps like, but there's a lot in the box. So I'll set up the different armies for photos later. The last cool stuff that we need to look at that's in the box are the cards and the tokens. So let's go through them. So we have this is a sort of like a player turn help card. It tells you, first you may perform following regular actions in any order: hoplite movement, hero movement, prayer, and then use artifacts. And then you must perform one of the special action. Remember to mark with an used token, a used action token afterwards. Like I said earlier, I have no idea when they come back. I'm going to have to look through the rules for that again. On the flip side, there's a summary of how you calculate your army strength, which is good. So you get your army strength for each hoplite, +1, +2 for every fortified hoplite in a city in the same region. Is taking place, or +3 for a fortified hoplite in Sparta, +X for each played combat card, I'll come to that in a second, +X for blessings cards, +X for Achilles in the same region, +X for artifacts. So that's useful. Actually, this side is probably one of the most useful things I've found. I mean, the models are cool. The models are awesome, but this is the most useful thing I've encountered by far. What else? There was something else. There is a monument activation track. Once a monument is fully built, you basically can keep track of the turns. Player controlling first fully monument wins at the end of this turn. So once a monument is fully built, you keep track of the turns after that. And on the turn 3, the player that controls the monument wins the game. So you either chase them out of that region, or you win some other way by killing monsters and stuff like that. Okay, each player gets a temple card. Anytime you build a temple on a shrine, you keep track of it. Excuse me. And when you cover each one, you get. I don't think you get a bonus when you cover one of the green ones, other than you might get a priest for every temple you control or something like. I can't remember if you get bonuses from the green ones, but certainly when you cover over a red one, that's when you get blessings for every temple you control, and blessings can be really, really helpful. So that's what that card is for. There is a deck of event cards, which is made up of quests events, I think, and monster events. Yes, indeed it is. And by the looks, and you have multiple copies of monsters and whatnot. So there's one copy of the Medusa, and it will appear in Attica. This is a Cyclops, will appear in Arcania, Chimera in Macedonia. But again, you've also got, well, you saw how many monsters there were earlier, and I think there's this many monster appearance cards in the deck, and there are a number of quest events. So, for instance, on the Amazon Queen, I think that's something to do with the player board is the first requirement. Let's see if I can find something to help me with that. Yes. Okay, that symbol represents leadership. So in order to say that you've got the Amazon Queen quest, you go to this region here, Chalkioki. Your character must have 2 leadership to qualify to get onto that quest track, and it would go onto the board, onto the quest track like we saw earlier. If they also had 1 priest, they could go to this part of the quest track. Or actually, I'm not sure about that, because it seemed to imply in the rulebook that if you qualify for part 2, you could start at part 2. That doesn't make sense to me. A quest in my mind should take the 3 turns regardless. So I'm gonna until I hear otherwise, you go on the first space when you qualify for it. So you need 2 leadership. Then on the next turn that your hero does a move, if you've got 2 you need 2 leadership and you need to have a priest, and then on the next turn you need to sacrifice a priest, and as a reward you get 1 strength and you draw 2 combat cards. So that's how you do the quest, which is, I think that's an interesting mechanic. This one is, you need 2 leadership to start, you then need 2 leadership and 2 speed. This is for the expedition for the Golden Fleece, and then you need 2 leadership, 2 speed and an artifact. And as a reward, you can recruit 3 hoplites in a region you control. So that might actually tilt the balance of power in an area in your favour. So useful. Let's have a look at the combat cards. I think I'm starting to understand them now. So the combat cards are used for monster hunting and for when you're fighting battles between hoplites. The symbols in the corner represent the symbols on the monster wounds, and you can use 3 combat cards with the bow symbol to deal a wound of any type. So that's handy if you are short of lanterns or whatever they are. This number represents the combat strength in a hoplite battle. And if you're defending a region with City or Sparta, you add 2 to your army strength. I'm going to have to search through, because there's another symbol that wasn't showing on that one, but it's showing in Phalanx. This is strength 2. Phalanx is an aggressive formation. Whilst still being strong in defense, it's more aggressive than being in a fortification. And for every 2 hoplites in this battle, add 1 to your army strength, which is really awesome in terms of how a phalanx works. Hoplites support one another. However, it also has a casualty marker. The thing is, the casualty marker tells you how many casualties you will take, guaranteed, at the end of this maneuver. So it does more damage, but in ancient warfare, you cannot avoid people being killed in battle. And a phalanx, you're going to remove 1 hoplite unit that they're going to die. However, the losing side automatically removes a hoplite unit as a casualty, and your different maneuvers in the combat deck. Because there are others. I think there are others that can actually inflict 2 casualties on you, for instance. But very aggressive. A very aggressive maneuver tends to do lots of damage, but also to your own troops, because a charge into a spear tortoise is going to kill a lot of troops. So I like that mechanic. That's going to make the combat very tactical. Can you afford to risk losing half your army to demolish an enemy position? Let's have a look at the monster attack deck. Okay, so this is the monster deck, and it has a strength, number of wound symbols on the monster trait, and its effect is to deal 1 injury. I'm going to say that should say deals 1 wound. If hero already has an injury, immediately end the hunt. Okay, normally heroes can take 3 injuries in a hunt, and basically that's 1 injury for each stat: leadership, speed, and strength. You flip the marker over, and when the marker is flipped over, I don't think you can increase that again until you heal. And at the end of a hunt, you take a 4th wound, I think. But if you actually, this is saying actually end the hunt now. Special attack. See the special attack on the monster tree. Fair enough. What else have we got? Recall. Immediately end the hunt. Oh, that's mean. Monster hunting is one of the ways you can win the game by slaying, I think it's 3 monsters, which is an interesting idea. It means that you can, even if you don't control a large army, you can still actually, if you have a buffed up hero, you can actually go, and I think Perseus is designed for that. Let's have a look at some of the artifacts. Artifacts, I think you get them through monuments and temples and quests. However, each of the monuments have their own special artifacts, and by controlling the monument, you gain that monument's artifact. So Athena has an owl, draw 2 combat cards and keep 1. You basically spend, when you use an artifact's ability, you spend it, you exhaust it, you tap it, whatever you want to call it. I think you actually have to call it exhausting, because tapping, I think, has been trademarked or something like that. Boots of Hermes. Place your hero in any region on the map. Does not count as a hero movement. Very, very useful. But then Hermes was the messenger of the gods, so of course he's going to be fast. And then there's the Thunder of Zeus. Deal 1 wound to any monster on the map, or deal 1 injury to an enemy hero. The enemy chooses which attribute. That's mean, but also it kind of makes sense, because Zeus was not a nice man at all, and that's probably the best thing you can say about him. He wasn't a nice man. He probably one of he was a misogynistic, horrible individual who didn't particularly believe in consent. There are regular artifacts, poison arrows, Medusa's blood. This is an artifact from the actual, you get this as completing the Medusa hunt. Adamant tethers. Kill 3 hoplites in the same region your hero is in. Nasty. Eye of the Cyclops. Add 1 priest to your priest pool if your hero is in a region with a temple. Handy. The Horn of Plenty. Recruit 2 hoplites in any region with a city or Sparta that you control. Yeah, those are going to be quite powerful. I'm starting to get my head around how the game's going to work, and despite the fact that I had trouble understanding all the rules, it's kind of coming together for me now. There is also a deck, or technically 3 decks of blessings. There are the Blessings of Hermes. Add 1 priest to your priest pool when taking this blessing. After using the Build Temple special action, immediately use an additional special action. So they will all be to do with speed. There are the Blessings of Athena, which are to do with leadership. When you are defeated in battle, your enemy when you're the defender in a battle, your enemy can only draw 1 combat card or play 1 combat card. So that's useful. Makes sense for Athena, actually. And then we have Zeus's blessings. I'm only showing 1 just now because the battery on my camera is dying. Zeus's blessings appear to all be strength related. Add 1 to your hero's speed upon receiving this. Is this actually? That's a Hermes blessing. Get out of there. Weak spot. At the start of a hunt, discard 1 combat card to deal 1 wound of any type. So yeah, you can see why that would be handy if you were wanting to get Medusa's blood or something like that. There are some tokens, like these red cubes are the wound tracks. The colours you put at the base of your hero to show which faction of hoplites you're using. This die is to determine what a monster's doing in the monster phase. What else have we got? We also have regional control markers, 15 for each player. And I think that's all the tokens and the cards. So that's been my look inside the box of Lords of Hellas. It was, I have to say, as expected, it was amazing. The miniatures are great, the board is great, the player boards, the monster boards, it's all fantastic. Reading the rules, I am looking forward to playing this more than pretty much any other game that I have right now, and regular viewers will know that I have received a lot lately. This actually, this is starting to trump things like Scythe and Descent, and I've not even played it yet. And actually, the box was so jammed full when I got it that the lid didn't quite securely fit on, and I've packed it not quite properly. So I'm going to have to be very careful about not destroying things, and the lid is even worse at the minute, so I'm going to have to find another storage solution, I think, because all the miniatures have a little plastic insert, and after figuring out which monster goes where, because I didn't take any photos earlier on, and the figuring out took a little while actually, but they're all in safely, snuggled into their little insert, and I'll hopefully be playing this very soon, and I'll try and get a how to play video up in the near future, and maybe even some footage of us playing if we can manage it. So I've been John from itsmorethanjustgaming.com. This has been my unboxing of Lords of Hellas from Awakened Realms. If you have enjoyed or found this video useful, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. There is a link to my website specifically to the article that accompanies this video in the video's description. Don't forget to go across and check out the photographs if you want to get a little bit of a closer look at things. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!